What is going on, everybody? It is me again. It is HorrorFan34, and welcome to another video. And I know I'm late with making this, but better late than never, like I always say. So finally gonna get around to doing this. This will be my recap video from Chiller Theater in Parsippany, New Jersey, which was last month, and I think April 26th, I believe. Went on a Friday night, and this was another really great show. This was another big show for me with some people that I needed and things like that. So it was a really good time. Like I said, like the celebrity turnouts that they get is always top notch. They get some of the most rare people that don't do shows too often, like something that like maybe a Monster Mania you probably wouldn't see at, or maybe like maybe even a Comic Con, like like. I feel like Chiller Theater is like one of those shows where they get like some of the more smaller, rarer people that you might not see do other shows like a Monster Mania or like a New Jersey Horror Con, or even though New Jersey Horror Con and Monster Mania do tend to get guests that I've never seen do shows before. Case in point, I mean, New Jersey Horror Con got the Blair Witch people, which I haven't seen them do a show over here in quite a while, or the Halloween Town cast, or things like that. Even Luke Edwards from Mother's Boys, like I've never seen him do shows. So, and even like Monster Mania, they've gotten people like trying to remember like off the top of my head. I mean, the like Michael C. Hall from Dexter. Like, who would have thought he would have done a show? Or even getting people like, hell, like Melissa Barrera, I never would have thought in a million years she would ever do a convention, or Mikey Madison, or Juliette Lewis, like, for that. Yeah, so you just never know what certain people would do with certain shows and all that stuff. But getting back onto the topic at hand here at Chiller Theater, nothing I got from the vendor rooms. There wasn't really anything I needed from the vendor rooms, so this is just strictly meeting the celebrities and things like that. Like, I got 6 more people I wanted to show you guys. So this is from like a few weeks ago, so just getting to this now. But getting on to the first person that I met, the first person I met was Peter Kwong. This was a big one for me because I'm a huge fan of Big Trouble in Little China. It's one of my favorite John Carpenter films. And I've already met James Pax 2 years ago, who played Lightning. So I've now have met the second of the 3 Storms. Now I just got to meet Carter Wong, who played Thunder. But getting on to Peter Kwong, who played Rain in Big Trouble in Little China. Definitely, just like with James Pax, very down-to-earth guy Peter Kwong was. I mean, he has like such a great personality, just like James Pax did when I met James Pax 2 years ago at New Jersey Horror Con. Yeah, Peter was just a really nice guy, talkative, down to earth, and I was even telling him like how you and James Pax just like seem to really enjoy what you're doing and things like that. And he was just saying to me like the way he likes to spread positivity around the world is because he just likes to interact with people and give them a positive experience, because he said it best. He said there is way too much hate and darkness in this world today that we need to have some people around here with some positivity and some upliftness and things like that. And I couldn't have said it better myself. So he was just that kind of a guy. And the really cool thing too about Peter Kwong and the way the photo came out, he had the swords that he used in the movie, because you know how like with the sword, he like when he had the sword fights with Dennis Dunn in the movie, he had those 2 swords from the film, and he was posing for people for pictures with the swords, and I got that picture as well. So it was really cool, really cool stuff. I mean, couldn't have asked for a nicer guy in Peter Kwong. I talked to this guy for at least 2 or 3 minutes. Just a really nice guy, and he has some really cool like merchandise on his table, like T-shirts, and has some really cool 8x10s, which is what I picked. I picked an 8x10, just like I did with James Pax. So now I just have to meet Carter Wong, and then I'll be complete with the 3 Storms. And I still got to meet hopefully one at some point, because he's getting up there, James Hong, who plays Lopan in Big Trouble in Little China. But getting on to the pictures at hand here, so here is my picture with me and Peter Kwong. And here's a picture of Peter Kwong signing the 8x10. And his autograph on it. Okay, so moving on to the next person that I met here. The next person I met was Maddie Corman. This is a really big one for me because if you guys know me, I'm a huge fan of Andrew Dice Clay, and The Adventures of Ford Fairlane is one of my favorite films of all time. It's my personal favorite comedy of all time. I love The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. I think it's funny, entertaining. And Maddie Corman played Zuzu Petals, the pretty much love interest for, or the partner, I should say, for Andrew Dice Clay's character in the movie. And she was, I got her to sign my Ford Fairlane DVD, which I do have on Blu-ray, but I got my DVD as like a collector's item now so I can get it autographed. I already had Diana Barrows and Priscilla Presley on there from years past. So to add Zuzu Petals herself to the DVD was really cool. And Maddie was definitely one of the highlights of the whole show. She was so nice to me. She was such a down-to-earth person. I talked to her for at least 5 minutes, and we just talked about Andrew Dice Clay because she saw that I had the shirt on. And we were just talking about Andrew Dice Clay in general. She is a big fan of his stand-up like I am, and she still thinks that he still has it to this day. And she was also just gushing about how great it was working with him on Ford Fairlane. Which if you read, I think I saw like even like the little making of from back in the day where they said like Priscilla Presley really enjoyed working with Dice, and so did Maddie Corman. So the fact that she really enjoyed working with Andrew Dice Clay is really cool to hear. So definitely a really great experience meeting Maddie Corman, especially for The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. And she had all these really cool 8x10 photos of all of Ford Fairlane with her and Dice on it and things like that. So it was pretty cool looking stuff to see. So here is my picture with me and Maddie Corman. And here's a picture of Maddie Corman signing my Ford Fairlane DVD. And her autograph on it. Okay, so moving on to the next person that I met. The next person I met was Deborah Hayes. This is another big one for a Friday the 13th fan like me. Deborah Hayes played one of the first victims in the original film, the original Claudette, the POV shot where she goes like this and screams. So I really wanted to get her on my From Crystal Lake to Manhattan box set because that's being filled up with all kinds of autographs, and that's pretty much my Friday the 13th piece. I have like at least well over 15, probably 10 signatures on that. Like I have Miguel A. Nunez, I have Lawrence Monison, the Moore twins, I have Lauren Marie Taylor, Adrienne King, Jennifer Banco, Tom McLaughlin, CJ Graham, VC Dupree, like you name it. Like I have a lot of people, Harry Manfredini. So I really wanted to add Deborah Hayes to it, and just like with Maddie Corman, like Deborah Hayes, probably my favorite meet of the whole show, other than Maddie Corman. She was so nice, super talkative, and really funny as well. I remember when the agents were taking the photo for me, they wanted to be sure that the photo came out really good and things like that. And because I think Deborah and her agents were talking about how the lighting wasn't the greatest, and I said like, "Oh, it looks perfectly fine. It looks perfectly fine." And so Deborah was messing around with me when she saw the picture, and she was like, and I said to her like, "Oh, I can crop it and make it, evenly centered so that way it looks like a normal picture." And because sometimes like when they take photos, like there's like a lot of space to the left or to the right, and you can easily like crop that and make it like centered, really nice and centered on your phone. So then she messed around with me and said, "Well, if you can do that, is there any way you can make me look 20 years younger in that picture?" So she was messing around with me about that. We got a good laugh. And she was also just really blown away too by all the people that I had on there. She was like looking at all the signatures on there. And what's funny is she saw that someone wrote "screw you" to me on there. It was Judy Aronson's autograph, because she either signs, "strip and dip" or "screw you." So she pointed out, like, who wrote that to you? So it was kind of funny how she was like reading all the autographs, and she pointed that out and all that. So definitely one of my favorite meets of the whole, probably my favorite meet of the whole show, other than Maddie Corman. So here is my picture with me and Deborah Hayes. And here's a picture of Deborah Hayes signing a part of my From Crystal Lake to Manhattan box set. And her autograph on it. Okay, guys, moving on to the next person. The next person I met was a big one for me, James Remar. I mean, what more can be said about James Remar that hasn't been said before? This man has been in so many things: The Warriors, 48 Hours, Dexter, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, just countless amounts of stuff. But I'm a huge fan of Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. I personally would probably say it's my favorite horror anthology movie of all time, even more than Creepshow. Just my personal opinion. I do like Creepshow, but I just think Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, is just criminally underrated, and I think it deserves a lot more attention. And James Remar played in the last story, Lover's Vow, as the character of Preston. If you've seen the story, you understand how it turns out and things like that. So, and luckily enough, he had a really cool black and white 8x10 photo of him with the gargoyle from the story. So that's what I really wanted him to get. So I picked that off his table, and James was a really cool guy, really funny. He was just like, he was talking with me for a couple minutes, and I was telling him how my mom is a really big fan of him on Sex and the City and Dexter. So he got a big smile out of that, and as soon as we were done posing for the photo and things like that, he shook my hand and he said, like, "Hey, tell your mom I said hello for you. Tell your mom that I said hello, okay?" And I said I certainly will. So just a really, really nice guy, James Remar. He had a really big line, but he was taking his time with everybody and was really accommodating to each and every guest. So he definitely had a big turnout, but couldn't have been more of a nicer guy, James Remar. So for as big as he is and how much of a legend he is, really nice guy. So here is my picture with me and James Remar. And here's a picture of James Remar signing the 8x10. And here's his autograph on it. And what's actually cool is I didn't ask him to write a quote or anything like that, or I was just kind of thinking, like, I didn't think he was going to do character and even write the story, but he really did the whole thing. He personalized it to me, which I asked for, like I said. But then he also put a quote for me, he put his character, and he put signed, and then he put the story he was in, which I thought was really, really cool of him. So couldn't have asked for, like I said, couldn't have asked more for a nicer guy, but here's the autograph. Okay, moving on to the next person. The next person I met was Jim J. Bullock. They actually had a reunion for Too Close for Comfort. They had Lydia Cornell, Deborah Van Valkenburg, and Jim J. Bullock from Too Close for Comfort. But I really needed Jim J. Bullock on my Spaceballs poster because I already had George Weiner and Dick Warlock on my 11 by 17 of Spaceballs, but Jim J. Bullock played Prince Valium in Spaceballs. A little tiny little part, but he pretty funny part that he had, and he kept yawning at the wedding and of Daphne Zuniga and things like that. So I really wanted to get Jim on my Spaceballs poster, and Jim was a super nice guy, really funny and things like that. He was just like saying how fantastic it was being on the East Coast and how great the people are on the East Coast and how much of a great time he was having at the show, and even like the guy that was like in front of me, like he was just talking with everybody. Like the guy had like some sort of like I guess some sort of like plaid, well, not really a plaid, but like a like color, like a tie-dye color like shirt. And like Jim's like, oh my god, like your shirt is so cosmic, and things like that. So Jim was just cracking jokes with everybody and things like that. He was making everybody laugh, and Jim's a really really funny guy. If you've seen like his stint on like Hollywood Squares in the '80s, just really zany, very kooky guy on in Hollywood Squares, but he's really really nice though. He saw my Andrew Dice Clay t-shirt, and he actually told me a little bit of an interesting tidbit I did not know about, but he told me that he got to work with Andrew Dice Clay doing stand-up in the late 70s, which I think is really interesting because I never knew that before. I thought Andrew Dice Clay didn't really pop up until like, the mid-80s at least, or early 80s. So the fact that Dice was doing stand-up in the late 70s and he got to work with Jim J. Bullock, that's pretty interesting, which I never knew about. So I got Jim on my Spaceballs poster, and I could not have been more happier with him. So here is my picture with me and Jim J. Bullock. And here's a picture of Jim J. Bullock signing my Spaceballs poster. And his autograph on it. Okay, guys, moving on to the last person that I met. The last person I met was a really big reason for me to go to this show because I heard it was the first convention he ever did, and I think he's almost 80 years old, which is crazy. But I was really happy to get him because of a special item I got him for, and that is Muse Watson. All of you know him, of course, as Ben Willis, the fisherman from I Know What You Did Last Summer. But he's been in other stuff, too. I think he was in The Last Exorcism 2, which I remember him in that. He had a small part in Austin Powers' The Spy Who Shagged Me. If you remember the scene in the film where Dr. Evil and them were on Jerry Springer, he's the guy that, what are you, some kind of freak? And then Dr. Evil's like, I got your hood. He's that guy. And he's also been in... He's been in a couple of other things too, but I really wanted to get him on a film called If I Die Before I Wake, which is a really underrated late 90s like horror thriller from, I think, Artisan Entertainment. And he played the main bad guy, the main killer, the main, intruder. And Muse was a really, really nice guy. He was completely blown away that I had something that I printed out for If I Die Before I Wake. So he was just telling me a lot of cool stories, working on behind the scenes and things like that. And even his agent was surprised that he saw something from If I Die Before I Wake. And like Muse's face just like lit up, like he couldn't believe it. So so it was. I was really happy with the experience, things like that. And I got him. I forgot to ask him to personalize it, and also so that was kind of my fault. And it's a little hard to see the autograph because he signed it in a black Sharpie. But if you like, it's better if you see it in person. So hopefully it shows up okay when I show the pictures and all that stuff. But I'll get to that. I'll probably like zoom it in so you can see it. But it's better if you like see it like in person and in like under a light. So here is my picture with me and Muse Watson. And unfortunately, I forgot to get a picture of him signing it because I was too busy talking with him and his handlers. So I completely screwed up on that. But here is the 8x10 that I printed out from If I Die Before I Wake, and his autograph on it. Like I said, I'll zoom it in so you can see it, but here it is. And that's it. That is the entire recap video from Chiller Theater in Parsippany, New Jersey. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. You guys take care.